Hello, I'm Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual teacher. I blog regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. And of course, I do videos on Jim Tolles, my channel on YouTube. And today I want to talk about how non-action inspires change. Firstly, there's a distinction I want to make between non-action and inaction. Inaction is not doing things. Non-action is that space of awareness. That space of awareness observes when we're inactive or we're taking action. So that's a very different thing. And it's this space of awareness that's not acting, that's eternally still within us, that we return to again and again as we learn to let go of our ego attachments. Over time, as we do this type of work, we let go of more attachments and we tend to rest in that space of non-action, that space of awareness. And a lot of times that also does lead us to not taking as many actions as we might have done before. Many of our actions are very unconscious. They're coming from our ego conditioning that says, oh, I want to do this, or I want that to happen, or I don't want this, or I don't want that to happen. And it's playing this game of control. Even when we think we're out of control, we're generally playing this game of having all these different preferences and attachments, and that influences how we feel about ourselves and about different situations, and those feelings then influence us further, and there's all this kind of craziness and management going on inside us that's not going particularly well for most people. As we come back to non-action, we say, all right, we're just going to keep dropping this stuff. And usually what happens is the internal stuff starts to balance itself. We calm down. We get a little bit clearer about different situations. And that clarity changes how we act. That's always the concern when we start talking about this. Surrender, come back to awareness, be in the space of non-action. People are concerned, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything. And it's not going to affect anybody. And they're not going to change. And that reality is that is completely not true. Firstly, non-action doesn't stop us from taking action. It doesn't mean being inactive. Secondly, as we let go of our reactions, the quality of the things we say and do drastically changes. It's one thing to hear a criticism from a romantic partner and then to react to it, and then wherever that goes, the two people play out their conditioning. But if one person's doing something from their conditioning and another is staying in the space of neutrality, a doorway has been opened. A doorway has been opened for that partner or any other relationship that you're engaged with for a different kind of engagement. When we react from our ego conditioning, we're just replaying the past, our past experiences, and that generally has very predictable results. Sometimes people on the spiritual path, as you become more advanced, seem sort of prophetic. It's not prophecy to be able to see certain ego patterns play out over and over and over again, and to know what's going to happen the next time those same patterns happen again. If two people have been getting in arguments and one plays the dominant role and the other submissive role, you know what's going to happen in the next argument. One's going to play the dominant role, the other's going to play the submissive role. Now just imagine in this particular relationship, one person is just staying in awareness, just staying in that space of non-action. Now the other person doesn't really have the feedback that they need, because that's a lot of what relationship is you need a certain amount of feedback to keep it going. And there's now space for a change. Obviously, not everybody is going to embrace those opportunities. However, some people do. It sounds too easy. We're taught things should be complicated a lot of times in Western society. The idea that we can just remain as awareness, to stay in the space of neutrality, to be non-reactive to situations, without, being like we're holding back or being condescending or any other game, like no other games, just being aware that this person is having this response to us or to a situation. They're telling us about us, they're engaged with us, and we're simply present to them. And it's not just the people we engage with, but other people who notice us. When we're engaging with somebody, it has and influence. It's very powerful for other people to see somebody who's in that space of non-reaction, or when they do speak from that space of non-action, the quality of what comes out has a certain resonance to it, and people are sensitive. We're very, very sensitive animals that we pay a lot of attention to a lot of different things. We just forget that we're doing it. It becomes very unconscious. That's why it's so important in this work that we bring the unconscious to the conscious to understand what we're paying attention to in body language, in tone, facial movements, all sorts of different things, the word choices, and how we're associating what we're hearing. And our associations, once again, that's going to our past. That's where they came from. As we let go of those attachments to the past, to our past associations, how we see somebody engaging with us really is seeing them in the now, in the present moment, rather than associating this person with, well, this person in the past was like this and they said that, so therefore I should do this. And we don't generally think about this at the level of our active thinking. It's all unconscious. And so then we react from whatever the unconscious has decided about what's happening in this relationship or this group engagement or whatever is going on. And so we're actually being told how to respond. As are most people. When we're locked in our conditioning, we're not living our lives, we're being told how to live them based off of the past. And the past will repeat itself again and again and again. History repeats itself for a very simple reason, that people keep responding in the same way they always have. Resting in that space of non-action is, in my opinion, a very new thing for a lot of human beings to do. The more we can do that, the more we neutralize a lot of different things that are going on, that people will, generally speaking, become less reactive. Because without somebody throwing a lot of energy back in and confirming their conditioning and to play it out some more, a lot of that stuff starts to fall apart. Certainly some people can be reactive to you being in the space of non-action, but that's not the point of today's video. Today's video is to appreciate that a lot of other people are noticing. The more you're just at peace, non-judgmental, not trying to force an opinion on somebody, but just being in that space with somebody, other people notice and they learn. And maybe some of them start to ask you questions. Maybe some people start being curious because they can notice that as those of us develop on the path, that we're more at peace, we're more relaxed, we're easier to be around in general because we're not so reactive and not being triggered all the time. And that space of non-action calls to other people. And so there you are, generally speaking, probably not doing a whole lot. Maybe there's a little bit of doing or speaking. And we learn to choose our words from that space of clarity rather than from our old ego conditioning. And other people start to notice. Maybe it inspires them to make changes in their life, to start to go on an inward journey to understand themselves. And if other people do that, the people around them are influenced. And so these ripples start to move out. And still this space of awareness has done nothing itself. And the actions we've probably taken that arise naturally and intuitively from non-action are probably not that much. And this generally throws people for a loop. And this is where some confusion is. It's like, but I haven't hardly done anything. Or all I did was say 5 words. And this person's inspired. Yeah, it can be that easy. Generally is that easy. This isn't a cure-all. This isn't going to fix everyone. It doesn't work like that. Everybody's allowed to be unconscious. It's the nature of the divine. We're fully accepted to be wherever we are. We can do horrendous things like the Holocaust and world wars, or we can do beautiful things. Generally speaking, we know what these old paths of aggression and fear and hate and shame and depression and all these other things do. We know where they take us. We've been down this road. It is time, I think, that more of us make this dedication to the spiritual path for the sake of humanity, because we're just becoming so interconnected through our technology that what happens with one person is affecting other people in much more tangible ways that we can look at in all sorts of different metrics around economies and societies, even just the spread of disease. right? If somebody gets sick in Africa because we can travel so easily, that can be spread all around the world very quickly. So these interesting, very physiological kind of interconnections are happening. So this is an important path, and it does inspire change. It won't necessarily be the way that you expect it, because how could you expect this sort of change? That would come from your ego conditioning, going to the past, thinking that it knows what will happen in the present, and we don't. In short, there is a lot of amazing things that can arise as we come back to the space of non-action. It does clarify our ability to act and to act from clarity. We don't get stuck being lazy or have an inability to do things. And it is deeply inspiring that people start to notice these things, and it inspires them to perhaps change in ways that they might not have expected, and they often wouldn't have even considered had any of us come with like an agenda to say that they should change. No, the change is inspired because you are walking your talk. I hope these are some thoughts that will help you understand non-action better and how it does inspire change in others. Once again, my name is Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual teacher. I have a few links down in the info section for you to learn a bit more about some of these aspects, taking action, making decisions from no mind or non-action, and also have a sign up for a newsletter. Have a beautiful rest of your day.